Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football. Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well today. So, talk about a new stadium is the topic on the block today. We're going to get, I think, right into it. A few truths need to be said in relation to this topic. And yeah, we'll make sure we cover every single base. Before we do, a few things. Make sure you catch the socials. Links are in the description, Twitter and Instagram, as well as the second channel, Younes Talks, where 2 videos are up on there now, so go and have a look. And tomorrow, make sure you're here for the preview for Chelsea versus Aston Villa as we gear up for Premier League football on its return. And we hope that Chelsea pick up 3 points and we don't keep throwing points away like we did in our last game against Everton. So fingers crossed, I'll give you guys my preview for that tomorrow. Make sure you are here for that. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. Let's get cracking. So over the last 24 hours, the big elephant in the room is Chelsea's new stadium, right? This has popped out of nowhere. And, well, I mean, not out of nowhere. We already know that Chelsea want a new stadium, eventually. But the options are scarce. The options are quite difficult, let's say. Why are they difficult? Because to redevelop Stamford Bridge isn't easy. Considering that there's a residential area and considering that there's tracks, the train tracks, and considering that there's a main road, you're blocked off on all three, and the only space that there is the space that there currently is available in and around the stadium. And it's tight. It's very tight. They say it's possible, but it's very, very tight. And even then, it would probably mean having to knock down some of the residential areas. So that's not ideal. It would mean that they would have to move out. And if they don't want to move, well, nothing's happening. So you need all sorts of approval, all sorts of licenses, all sorts of chaos, right, in order to get that done. Also, the one point that we have to talk about is if we do stay at Stamford Bridge, the time that it's going to take to redevelop the bridge or go stand to stand as it's been, as let's say, advertised, as an option, would mean that we would have to go and find a new home for the next 4 or 5 years. And that's not easy at all. Some of the options that have been touted have been, well, the London Stadium over at West Ham, Wembley, going all the way up to northwest London in Wembley, Twickenham, it's a rugby ground, but Twickenham, and it's not exactly that close to Stamford Bridge, even though it is southwest London, but Twickenham, Craven Cottage, I mean, that's the size of a matchbox. We thought that Chelsea, Stamford Bridge was small, we got to move to Craven Cottage. Albeit that is down the road, but trying to facilitate Chelsea and Fulham like you're trying to facilitate AC Milan and Inter Milan at the San Siro, that's hard enough. Trying to get Chelsea and Fulham at Craven Cottage is going to be an absolute challenge. So I don't see that happening. Those are the options. So that's why it's difficult. And as I've said, if we do redevelop Stamford Bridge, it would mean having to knock the whole thing down, to clear everything out, or we go stand to stand, which would mean that we can still play there, but it's going to take forever. It's going to take a while. If we do knock down the entire stadium, it would mean that we have to wait 4 or 5 years at a temporary home, like a Wembley, for example. Or we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So there's been talk about Earls Court. Earls Court has popped out of the scene. And I wanted to show you a few things before we get right into it. So this came out yesterday by Henry Winter of The Times. So check this out. Chelsea fans are so concerned about the threat of a move away from Stamford Bridge to Earls Court that they have assembled a series of questions to put to Todd Boehly. The club are exploring options on the stadium and are not committing to anything until fully establishing the time and cost of all possibilities. Yet, they face a backlash if they choose to leave their ancestral home. If they consider Earls Court, we might see the same support or demonstrations that put paid to the European Super League in 2021, said one prominent fan involved in the anti-Earls Court group. First and foremost, I have to say, can I clarify, I don't think there is an anti-Earls Court group. And if there is, where are they? Because honestly, I've honestly not seen a backlash so forth about Earls Court. If anything, and we're going to get into this, if we are going to build a new stadium, it is the most viable option. But we'll get into that very, very shortly. But an anti-Earls Court group, yeah. There's talk of one apparently. I've not seen it. I live in London. I know what ones that go to games. I've been to games myself. I know people that attend, weekly, every single game that have season tickets. There's been no talk of an anti-Earls Court group. There just hasn't. right? However, before we even entertain Earls Court, we even entertain anything to do with Chelsea's new stadium, there has to be one thing said, right? And I don't want this to go the wrong way, because you know me, I believe Chelsea fans worldwide matter. I believe that if you love the club, it doesn't matter where you are in the globe. You don't have to be a match-going fan. If you love the club, you love the club. Simple as that. Especially if you're not in the UK and you just don't have the means and resources, but you feel an affiliation to Chelsea, you just cannot go to Stamford Bridge because you're not in the country. I mean, that's a valid reason. You know, I've got absolutely nothing against that. If anything, I know some people that are like that tend to have so much more passion for Chelsea Football Club than some that are actually based here. So when you look at it from that perspective, worldwide fans matter. However, when it comes to this one topic about the stadium, everyone can have an opinion on what they think the stadium should look like and what it should be like and whatnot. But in terms of actually facilitating a move or building a new stadium or redeveloping Stamford Bridge, it's the ones that go to the games that have the true say in this. And more specifically, it's the Chelsea pitch owners that have the real say in this. So if you do want to become a Chelsea pitch owner, you can buy a share, you can go on the Chelsea pitch owners website, you can buy a share, and it would mean that you would have a share of the pitch at Stamford Bridge. You would therefore be an owner of a part of the pitch at Stamford Bridge. It can have unlimited owners. You can get a share for yourself right now. I'm not sure how much it costs. It's actually not that expensive. I actually need to do it myself. I've not done it yet. So that is the only way that you can have a real say. Because at the end of the day, if the CPO, the Chelsea pitch owners, the CPO, if they turn around and go, no, we're not moving, trust me, we're not moving. Chelsea, no one can do anything about it. The Chelsea pitch owners own the pitch. However, what I've seen some of the Chelsea pitch owners actually say, right? And I'm going to show you this. It clarifies it perfectly. So check this out. A couple of points on this. If you're not a CPO shareholder, your opinion on this simply doesn't matter. It's not your decision. As a CPO shareholder, I am willing to vote in favour of a move to Earls Court if CPO gets transferred to the new site. Otherwise, no chance. And that tells you everything you need to know. And I don't want you to take that offensively, because I don't want other worldwide fans to go, what? I don't matter. The truth of the matter is, if you are not a CPO, right? You're not a Chelsea pitch owner, you have no influence. The pitch itself, and I think this is where it goes. If it goes to Earls Court, if we were to move to Earls Court, and I'll get to Earls Court and the facilities very shortly, but if we were to move to Earls Court, as long as that pitch is moved over, right? And I don't mean by, blade for blade of grass. I mean that the actual concept of the pitch, the CPO, gets moved to the new stadium and the pitch at Earls Court is owned by the CPO, I don't think the CPO will vote against it. And I'll tell you why. Let me show you this before we get into it, because we have to clarify the situation. I don't want to lead you guys on. So check this out. We categorically deny that there have been any talks taking place with Chelsea FC about a stadium relocation to the Earls Court site. We have recently launched a draft master plan for a transformative mixed-use scheme to bring the wonder back to Earls Court. Our master plan proposals will deliver 4,500 homes, 15,000 jobs, acres of public space and cultural facilities in an ambitious zero-carbon development. There is no football stadium in our master plan. That has come from Earls Court Development Company themselves. So, this is the thing. I have to clarify the situation right now. If they're coming out and saying, look, there's been no talk of Earls Court, then there's been no talk of Earls Court. So we shouldn't really even entertain this. However, when you look at the options, there's a lot of people that don't want to leave Stamford Bridge. Me personally, what's my opinion? I don't want to leave Stamford Bridge. I love Stamford Bridge. Albeit in its 42,000-seater stadium, right? I love that ground. It's got a soul to it. It's got a feeling, and that comes with time, and that comes with history, and that comes with prestige. There's been so much has happened at that stadium that you feel it. You just feel it. You can imagine moving to a new ground and there'd be no connection immediately. That's going to come with time. Look at Arsenal and the Emirates. That took them time. Look at Tottenham. That's definitely not got any soul. That's just full of glass and mirrors and fancy boxes, and it's a beautiful stadium, but that's all it is. Stamford Bridge isn't the biggest. It's not the most glorious stadium that there is in the country, but it's ours, it's Stamford Bridge. So much has happened there. So I wouldn't want to leave. I would love to expand Stamford Bridge, increase the capacity of Stamford Bridge, but it's just very, very, very difficult to do that. So here's the thing, we have to be realistic. I don't want to move to a stadium that has no soul and, that's plain, or it's so far away, or it's just different, completely different. I don't want to do that. I'd love to redevelop Stamford Bridge and stay there. But if that's not possible, if that's just not possible, then we have to move. Now, I don't want people to confuse the point of, we need a new stadium for us to be a bigger club. Because if you're talking in terms of football on the pitch, new stadium doesn't have anything to do with the football you're playing on the pitch. Let me just put that right there. Because some people have this thing where, no, in order for us to progress and win trophies, we've got to get a bigger stadium. No. All you need is a pitch, yeah? We could show up at Hackney Marshes and still win the Premier League if we had a proper team. So that is that. But what it does for you, economically, it puts you on a level. In terms of business, in terms of Chelsea as a business, as a company, as a financial entity, you grow big time. The proof is in the pudding. Tottenham Hotspur earn more than Chelsea Football Club on a match day. They just do, by so much. And that's Tottenham. And they don't win anything. So this is the thing, financially, in order for us to progress as a business, we need a new stadium. 100%, we need a new stadium. But in terms of the team and our football, that doesn't have anything to do with it. So don't confuse the two. Don't think, we need a new stadium in order for us to go on and challenge for silverware. No, you don't, right? We've done it at Stamford Bridge. Proof is in the pudding. Arsenal with their new stadium. What have they won? Couple of FA Cups. Fair play. 3 FA Cups, if I'm not mistaken. Europa League final. Fair play. Have only come round to winning the Premier League now, if they do it this season. Have only just come round to it. After what? How long have they been at the Emirates now? Nearly 20 years. If we're talking, when was it? 2006, I think they got to the Emirates. So a good 17 years at the Emirates. No Premier League title. In that space of time, Chelsea have won the Premier League 1, 2, 3 times. 3 times. 3 times in that time. And we've been at Stamford Bridge. That fits 42,000. So it has nothing to do. And we've won the Champions League quite a few times. Twice in that time. And the Europa League twice in that time. I could go on. We've won so many trophies in that time. But that's the proof in the pudding. However, economically, those clubs outperform us. In terms of money, they outperform us. And not that we've needed the money, but they outperform us. So here's the thing. Redeveloping at Stamford Bridge would be perfect. But it's very tight and it's probably impossible if we have to look at it in terms of what we actually are trying to do in terms of the stadium and how much we want in seats, what we want in facilities, how big do we want it, what the design is, what the scales are, the dimensions. It might just be impossible to get it done there. So when you look at Earls Court, if you've not been to Stamford Bridge, is down the road. Earls Court, if I'm not mistaken, is 2 stops on the tube line. I think you've got Earls Court, then you've got West Brompton, then you've got Fulham Broadway. Correct me if I'm wrong. You get Earls Court, I get off at Earls Court District Line, I switch up District Line to change, and then I'm sure it's 2 stops down. So it's literally down the road. Now I'm going to show you, as part of that picture, here it is again on screen. If you look at it, Earls Court Station, West Brompton Station, and West Kensington Station all are connected to this big plot of land that Chelsea would end up acquiring if they were to get the Earls Court site. Let me tell you now, as someone that's been to games and the ones that do go to the games can absolutely advocate for this, right? How annoying is it to get off or go into Fulham Broadway on a match day? It's hell. I mean, it's hell. When you're coming out on a match day at Fulham Broadway Station, which is the only station that's close to Stamford Bridge, you can get to West Brompton, you're going to have to walk a little bit. You can even get off at Earls Court, but then you're going to have to walk maybe 15, 20 minutes, right? That's that far away. And it's not, that's what I mean, it's not even that far. But you're going to have to walk 15, 20 minutes if you are getting off at Earls Court. If you do decide to do that, that's on you. But the one station that's next to the bridge is Fulham Broadway. So everyone goes to Fulham Broadway. They shut off the roads. It's packed out. You're literally like a pack of sardines coming out of the train, coming out of the station. And then it's even worse when you're trying to go home. Some fans try to leave and then they get there early, they escape, and if you're caught in the crowd, you are there for at least an hour. Unless you smuggle your way to the front and bump past everyone, you're not getting out of Fulham Broadway if you do decide to leave from that station very quickly at all. So to have 3 stations next to the stadium would actually be very, very helpful and very feasible. That's one. The capacity, if we were to go to Earls Court, because the land is so vast, we can do whatever we want. We can go up to 70,000, 75,000. Imagine a Chelsea stadium of 70, 75,000 seats. You know, for me, the one fundamental thing, I don't want the design to be so different to what Stamford Bridge is now. I want it to be a modern, slick version of a design compared to what Stamford Bridge looks like now. I'd love that, you know? Not the same, because it has to be modernized. We can't have the exact same design, that's old. But I would like traits, you know? I don't like what the Emirates, for example, done when they rocked up Arsenal and they built that. It had no connection with Highbury, you know? I'm sure Arsenal fans would probably look and go, no, I want a piece of Highbury. You know, I'd like a piece of Stamford Bridge implemented in the design of if we were to go to Earls Court or build a new stadium altogether. So there is that. I think it would be a benefit for the club. And if we were to acquire a site like that that's actually not far from the bridge, it would mean that fans don't have to go so far. It's basically close. In terms of logistics, people and the way that they make their way to games, it doesn't really change much. So I honestly, and on top of that, if we were to go to Earls Court, we would be able to stay at Stamford Bridge up until that stadium is ready. So for the next 3-4 years, we continue at Stamford Bridge. We say goodbye to Stamford Bridge. We close it. Thank you very much. We cry, we shed a tear, and then we move over to Earls Court, brand new spanking stadium that is there to be used immediately. I think that would just be the best way to do it. And for those that are saying, no, we can't move stadium, we shouldn't move stadium, as I've already mentioned, well, you got to move with the times. You have to move with the times. It is what it is. You can't be emotionally connected to things that, eventually you have to move on. That is just the reality of life. We all like nostalgia. We all like things that worked before. We all like the soul that Stamford Bridge has had. Eventually, all good things must come to an end. That's just the reality of life. So if it's possible to redevelop at Stamford Bridge, cool. If it's not, I am totally on board with taking Earls Court. That's my opinion, and doing it there and waiting for it to be built. We continue to play at the bridge. Once it's ready, goodbye Stamford Bridge, thank you very much, and then we move across the road to Earls Court and we'll see what happens to Stamford Bridge. But that's my thoughts and opinions. However, remember, at the moment, the Earls Court Development Group have said that there's no talks, nothing's happened. So right now, this is nothing more than an idea. So let me know your ideas in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree with what I've said? Much appreciated, and I will see you tomorrow for the preview to Chelsea versus Aston Villa. Thank you all very much. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. Hit the notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. Smash like button if you've enjoyed this. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one, people. In a bit. Take care and peace.